Hello, my friends. This is Lynda Lippin, and welcome to the Pilates Goddess podcast. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back yet again to the Pilates Goddess podcast. This is your host, Lynda Lippin. And today I am doing a solo episode, although I have done a bunch of fabulous interviews and they will be coming up starting this coming Thursday. But today is on inclusive Pilates cueing. Now, you may wonder what exactly I mean by inclusive Pilates cueing. Because obviously, when we're cueing in Pilates, we are cueing to a specific body or to a specific exercise or to a specific piece of equipment. But what I'm hearing lately, and again, you guys know I'm a member of a lot of Pilates groups. I even have my own Pilates Teacher Mastermind free group on Facebook. But I'm a member of a number of Pilates teacher groups on Facebook, on Reddit, and LinkedIn and different places. Plus, just due to having this podcast and having a little bit of a platform and a voice, people do email me and DM me all the time with kind of questions and concerns. And what I've realized is that over the course of my Pilates teaching career, I developed not just a good eye for teaching and kind of seeing what people are doing, and not just good verbal cues, although I have those as well, but simple ways of cueing, even in a group setting, that don't make people feel like they're doing something totally wrong, but help them do things just a little bit better. And I think that with the advent of larger group classes, of Pilates, kind of, I want to say offshoots like the Megaformer, like SLT, like the large group classes in Club Pilates or anything like that, that you can have. I mean, if you're teaching a full class in one of those studios, you're looking at, 10 to 12 people on that equipment. And because a lot of doctors now and a lot of physical therapists now are just sending clients to Pilates for strength training and for other reasons, you never know what's going to walk in to your studio or your class in terms of body type, body size, body injury level, chronic conditions, pain conditions, back pain, neck pain, shoulder surgeries, people who have never exercised before, people who may prefer to do privates but can't afford it, so they're doing the group classes. But something that's not being addressed in Pilates teacher training programs, and this is partly because there's so much other shit you got to learn in your Pilates teacher training, like how to set up the equipment and how to deal with the springs and how not to hurt people. The intricacies of how to talk to people, of how to handle clients, get lost a lot in the translation. And a lot of times, the way master teachers and lead trainers will talk or teach apprentices and trainees in the studio is different from how they will actually talk to clients. Now, this, of course, fascinates me because, quite frankly, it's not like the people in the teacher training programs are coming in for free. Most of them are paying high 4 into 5 figures by the time you get done paying for the full teacher training program with all the additional classes and private sessions and all the things that you have to take, plus the workshops and all the time and the observation hours and the student teaching hours. I mean, there's a lot. It's a lot of time and it's a lot of money. Most, reputable Pilates teacher training programs, they're not done in a weekend, my friends. They are not. They are done over the course of usually a minimum of 6 months, but usually for most people, closer to 9 to 12 months before they do their final test out. It's also important to note here that, people are sometimes don't have a choice of what Pilates teacher training they're going to take. So a lot of times new apprentices end up in a position where they are basically choosing the option that's geographically closest to them, or they're choosing the option where they know they might get hired after graduation, or they are frankly just going into a Facebook group and saying, which equipment manufacturer's teacher training should I take? So I want to step back for a second, and I want to remind everybody that back in the day, Pilates equipment manufacturers manufactured Pilates equipment and did not have their own Pilates teacher trainings. I'm saying that again. Back in the day, Pilates equipment manufacturers made Pilates equipment. Sometimes they sponsored a teacher training, but they did not have their own teacher trainings. So know that if you, say, join a teacher training program that is based out of a particular equipment manufacturer, yes, you're generally going to learn Pilates and hopefully, the general Pilates principles and all of that. But you are going to be taught specific to that manufacturer's equipment. Now, as somebody who has been teaching for over 3 decades and has taught all over the place, I have taught on every major brand of apparatus. I've taught on knockoff brand apparatus from South America where like the risers didn't work and the springs would fall off the bar because there was no stopper. And I still managed to adapt and do that. And a lot of times, I'll see online people saying, well, can I do like mat and reformer from one manufacturer and then do like tower and chair from another manufacturer? And I'm always like, no, you can't actually, because all of that apparatus is different. And manufacturer to manufacturer, they are not going to necessarily recognize the other person's certification. So you may say, so Lynda, what the hell am I supposed to do? Do what you got to do. You can, there's a lot of reputable Pilates certifications out there. But what I recommend that you do is during that year of your Pilates cert, during the time after your Pilates cert, is go around, take classes, take sessions, and try different Pilates equipment. I've had people when I was like teaching at Real Pilates here in New York, I had people who came in from all over the world and wanted to take privates with me on the Gratz equipment because we had all of it. And they specifically wanted to take sessions with me because they knew that I understood all the other equipment. So they could walk in and say, I own a studio that's all stot. I've never been on the Gratz. And then I could explain to them where things were different, why things felt different, how the equipment literally is different, 4 equal weight heavy springs. It's a little bit narrower. It might be a little bit shorter based on dimension. Okay. Um, there's no ball bearings in the wheels on Grotz equipment, so the drag is different. 4 springs on Grotz actually does not feel, frankly, as hard as 4 springs on a balanced body or peak reformer, because again, the ball bearings in those wheels on those machines make that carriage want to pull right in, as opposed to having a little bit of entropy and just wanting to kind of sit there until you actively decide to bend your knees and pull that carriage back in for footwork. Okay, so again, they're different. And, as a Pilates teacher, even if you are Grotz classical all the way, or you're balanced body all the way, or you're Stott or Bozzy or whatever it is all the way, that's awesome. It still behooves you to try the other apparatus and see what that feels like. Now, when you're looking at teaching a large group class on whatever equipment you're teaching on, what you have to understand as a teacher is what the primary purpose is behind the exercises that you're teaching. And that will give you a really good idea of how to cue people and what's most important to cue. You also want to think about the spine movements involved. And if you want to hear my take on that, I recommend that you listen to Joan Breibart's Body Conversations podcast that actually came out today. I'm recording this on Monday, April 10th. It will be released on Tuesday, the 11th. But go and listen to Body Conversations, part 1, and hear my breakdown of basically all exercise and movements into 10 spine positions. That's all there is. It's very easy. You also want to think about how you might take exercises into a different relationship to gravity. So it's a lot, right? You're considering the fact that you're going to have people coming in at different levels, no matter what level your class is. You're considering the fact that you're going to have people of different sizes and shapes. You're considering the fact that you're going to have people coming in with injuries and all kinds of stuff that they may not even talk to you about. And you're going to have people who are extraordinarily self-conscious and body conscious because they haven't done group exercise before. And there are a few things that you can do that, number one, is going to help make everybody in your class feel a lot more comfortable, and that will make everybody in your class feel a lot more confident. The first thing is really understanding the point of an exercise. Not thinking about where the breathing is or what they should be feeling, okay? Because everybody feels things differently. But what is the point of the exercise? What is the point of the movement? For example, a lot of times I hear people talking about the fact that when they bring people into tabletop position, i.e., the femur perfectly perpendicular with the torso so that there's a 90-degree angle at the hip and at the knee, that their clients' backs arch up or shove down, and that their clients feel strain in their hip flexors. Guess what? That position of tabletop is a position that strains the hip flexors. Anatomically, you need to bring that femur in a little bit closer to the pelvis and the rib cage so that the psoas can actually do its job of hanging onto the femur, and then the quads and the leg muscles can take over doing the movement. This is true. So, if you're teaching people, say, the 100, or you're teaching people some supine arm work on a reformer with their hands in the handles or the straps, what you want to be thinking about is, what battle are we fighting here? Why are we doing this exercise? And if what we're doing is just getting people stable, people used to being on a reformer, moving their arms around while they keep their rib cage and their spine in one place, then frankly, if they bring their knees in a little closer to the chest, that's not hurting anything, right? That's not affecting the purpose of that exercise. See what I'm talking about? So if you're teaching somebody footwork and you're going through the different footwork positions, you want to be thinking to yourself, well, what is the point of doing this footwork? Why are we doing it? Are we doing it to work on a stable pelvis and get some leg strength? Get some hip and knee extension while we keep the torso stable? Learn how to control the carriage as we move it through a full extension and flexion at the knee and the hip? Probably. That's probably what we're doing with that exercise, right? So cueing people then to expect to feel it deeply in their abdominals, which, if they're like me and they've had abdominal surgeries or maybe had a C-section or whatever, they may not feel it in their abdominals, and that's okay. You can look at them and see if their back is stable, if their torso is stable, and if they're doing the work from their legs. Okay? If for some reason you want a client to feel things a little bit more, in their midsections, you can do a lighter spring. If you want them to get more leg strength, you can do a heavier spring, right? But once again, just understand what the point is of the exercise. Why are you doing it? Are you doing it just because it comes next, right? Or are you doing it for an intentional reason? And once you understand the intentional reason, then the important cues will pop out at you. So this starts right when your clients walk in the door. See how they walk in, see how they're feeling, say hi, greet everybody, get their names, how are they doing, anything they have specifically going on in their body on that day, because you never know. I almost hate taking classes, Pilates classes, because when I tell people my name or who I am, and because I'm relatively well known, in the little Pilates bubble, they feel like they have to give me more advanced things. They feel like they have to, pull on me more or push me more, which is precisely actually what my aging chronic pain body really doesn't always need. Sometimes I just want to be led through a workout. I want people to tell me if I'm off. And other than that, I just want to kind of do the work. And that's that. Now, if you're teaching a large group, it's also important that you, when you're cueing, cue to the group. Okay, so people are doing leg circles, for example, on the reformer, and you're looking around your class of 10 to 12 people, and people are lifting their tailbones up and their hips are rocking all over the place. So maybe you just say to everybody, hang on a second, everybody, can you bring your heels together, bring your legs together, and just press your legs away from your body for a moment? Can you get very heavy in your sacrum and get your abdominals pulled in like you got a really nice corset on? Can you maybe open and close your legs a few times without changing where your back is on the mat? Can we maybe lift the legs up and down a few times without changing where your back is on the mat? And then can we combine them and go into some circles, not changing where your back is on the mat? Awesome, everybody, right? And then you're not picking out that person, but you are cueing to the importance of the exercise, right? And what the point is. Not go until you feel your hamstrings stretch, because, if you're somebody like me and you're hypermobile, that may never happen. I got to go really, really far sometimes to feel my hamstrings. And that's not always really good for me because it will overstretch them at the back of my pelvis. Now, before I continue, I just want to take a quick break. And in this quick break, I just want to talk to you about Laird Superfoods. Laird Superfoods was founded by Laird Hamilton, the big wave surfer, along with his wife, another fabulous athlete, Gabrielle Reese. And Laird, like me, is a big coffee fan and a coffee drinker. And he was really looking for a way to have his kind of first morning coffee do a little bit more for him than just give him some caffeine. So he started looking at, number one, sourcing really good coffee. So all of the coffee and the coffee beans that he sells are from Peru. Number two, he started looking at what are the things that maybe we can add to coffee to make it yummy and creamy and all of those things, but without giving us the canola oil and the dipotassium phosphate and the artificial flavors that you'll find in a lot of commercially available creamers. And he did it, as far as I'm concerned. I love the Mocha Laird Superfood Creamer. I do. My husband will attest to this. I love to put it in my coffee. I do my little whisk blender. I also throw my collagen in at the same time. And my first cup of coffee in the morning is this kind of rich, creamy, chocolatey, very like latte-like event that gives me a little extra energy and a little extra boost because the whole creamer is made from coconut. It's a coconut-based creamer. It is all natural. It's non-GMO. It contains naturally occurring MCTs from the coconut oil. It's shelf stable. And it's really, really yummy and really easy to use and comes in multiple flavors. Now, I have not tried it yet, but if you're into those like instant coffee beverages, they have a few of those, as well as some fabulous protein bars, some hydration and rehydration drinks, and some mushroom-based coffee drinks. I love the Laird Superfoods Creamer, and I think that you will too. So, are you ready to become more energized, focused, and supported? Just go to lairdsuperfood.com/goddess and add nourishing plant-based foods to fuel you from sunrise to sunset. Use our promo code GODDESS at checkout and you will save 15% off your purchase today. All right, now let's get back to the Pilates cueing. Some exercises are just harder to cue. And again, they're harder to cue if you don't understand the point. So let's say you want to do stuff with someone on their stomach. And then you have some clients who aren't real comfortable on their stomachs for whatever reason. Do you need to stop the class and not have those people do the exercise if you want to teach like pull straps or something? Absolutely not. Have them sit on the box and do the press back. Have them stand at the spring wall and do chest expansion. Have them grab a light pair of hand weights and do that work. Maybe they're okay on their stomach on the box, but they're not okay with pulling the straps for whatever reason. Hand them a light pair of hand weights. Let them work with body weight. You can do pull straps and T there because, again, what's the point of the exercise? The point of the exercise is keeping the spine long, working on back strength, and maybe doing a little upper back hyperextension. It is not about cranking the workout from your lower back. But again, relatively easy to cue, relatively easy to include everybody in that. You can say, all right, now we're going to get on our stomachs on the box. If for some reason you're not really comfortable getting on your stomach on the box, sit on the box facing the back with your feet in the headrest. Then everybody grab your straps or grab your weights or whatever that looks like. Again, then it becomes an option for anybody. Suddenly, instead of somebody being like, hello, I really don't want to be on my stomach on the box, instead, you've made it an option that anyone in class who doesn't want to be on their stomach on the box doesn't have to be. So again, it becomes about inclusion, not exclusion. Not if you can't do this, do that. But for anyone in class who has any issue with this, here's another option that will work the same thing. And that's the point. The point is that there are many ways to work the same thing. Okay. I right now, as many of you know, because I've discussed it already on the podcast several times, I am having a meniscus repair arthroscopy on the 27th of this month. I have had this torn meniscus for quite a while. And true story, I made a really bad decision for my own body a few days ago. Ended up going shopping when I was a little bit tired, wore the wrong shoes, so I was in an open-toed shoe without enough support, and I didn't bring my cane. And yes, at this point in time when I am out and about and I am, navigating subway steps or going to the store, I bring my cane. I go shopping with a backpack and I bring the cane. So for some totally asinine reason, I decided to, kind of triple hurt myself, right? Tired, wrong shoes, no cane. And guess what? I fell on my way to the store. And, my knee feels pretty much exactly the same as it did before I fell, which is crappy. And it feels crappy in the same spot. And I let my doctor know that I had done this, but that it just still feels crappy in the same spot. Where the torn meniscus, where the cartilage is kind of floating out. But, the negative self-talk that I had for myself on that was ridiculous, right? Because I had made those bad decisions. I hadn't thought it through. In the studio, as teachers, there is no space for making bad decisions and not thinking things through. And this is what I mean by that sense of inclusion. For example, I, at this point, cannot be on all fours. Now, while we may not do a lot of all fours exercises in Pilates, there are a few, right? So if I'm on the reformer, we're still looking at things like down stretch, like the knee stretches, kneeling chest expansion, right? Kneeling arm circles and front chest expansion, kneeling side arms, and some versions of kneeling front splits. So there's a little bit of kneeling there that happens, and that happens even within the beginner system. And I'm not kneeling right now because I got a big ass scrape on my knee and some bruises on my shin and my knee, and kneeling hurts. It sucks. So I'm happy, frankly, to do knees off knee stretches. I am happy to do elephants. I am happy to do many things, but I am not happy to be kneeling on that knee. And I can imagine going into a class and saying, look, I'm just not kneeling. I'm not getting on the knee. Period. End of discussion. But as an educated mover, I know what my options are. Okay. I know that I could say when folks are going into down stretch, which is on the knee, I could put myself on the box and do swan, right? If they're doing kneeling chest expansion, I can stand and do chest expansion, right? I can sit on the box and do chest expansion. I can stand by the spring wall and do chest expansion. There's just many places to do this. Knee stretches, I can do knees off. Front splits, I can do a version of Eve's lunge. Just not putting my knee down on the carriage, right? If you were teaching me and I walked into your large reformer class and announced that, I had fallen, I'm having meniscus surgery, I'm not comfortable being on my knees right now, it doesn't mean that you would have to eliminate all of those exercises for the entire class. All it means is that to include me and not exclude me from the flow of your class, that maybe you would announce whatever kneeling exercise you were going to be doing, right? Whether it was a version of a kneeling plank or knee stretch or whatever, and then say, but if anyone here isn't comfortable being on their knees right now, you can do this in this other way. In terms of continuing education for Pilates teachers, what I really recommend folks do, especially newer teachers, is do continuing education that talks about how to offer a variety of different ways of doing an exercise that focuses on the actual point of the exercise. As a teacher, I also recommend that you whip out all of your old exercise lists that you have from your teacher training, and we all have them. Whether you teach teacher training, whether you've taken lots of teacher training, you got lists of exercises. And go through those lists. What is the point of this exercise? What is the spine position of this exercise? What is the purpose of this exercise? Are there other places that I could do this exercise? And what are the most important cues? What are the most important cues? Not the most interesting cues, not the most flowery cues, not the most, crazy cues, but the most useful cues for getting people into this position and getting them to do what I want them to do. What is the point of the exercise? And what you're going to discover is that it's not as complicated as everybody makes it. That there are a lot of exercises where the focus is on pelvic stability, and getting differentiated movement at the hip. That there are a lot of exercises that focus on shoulder stability. There are a lot of exercises that focus on shoulder mobility. And there are exercises that focus on the spine, whether the spine is in flexion, whether the spine is in hyperextension, whether the spine is side bending, rotating, or in plain old extension, which is in the middle. What some people like to call neutral. But if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that I hate the phrase neutral spine because it's pretty meaningless. Your spine moves every time you breathe. Your spine moves every time you move. So, be done with that. Inclusion for everybody in your class just means creating a safe workout that everybody can do and that is effective. And that also may mean offering variations for an exercise within a class. This also brings me to something that I learned very early on in my Pilates teaching, which came from Karen Carlson, who I love dearly and who I worked with for many years in Philadelphia. And Karen once said to me, the biggest part of your job as a Pilates teacher is to be your client's cheerleader, is to remind your clients of how much better they're getting. Remind your clients of how great it is to actually be on a journey of strength and movement. To remind your clients that we all started somewhere. And that, frankly, we all kind of sucked at Pilates before we did it for a while and got good at it. I also think that the leveling of Pilates that has happened is also kind of a false thing. For example, my body in its current state, I'm going to just kind of take you through my body right now, okay? I got the knee thing going on my left knee. Apparently, in doing MRIs and x-rays and things, they have also noticed that I have significant arthritis in these areas, which doesn't surprise me because I have significant arthritis in my neck, significant arthritis in my lower back. I've got arthritis in my feet. So why wouldn't I have significant arthritis in my hips and my knees? But as I said to the orthopedic surgeon, I know I have knee arthritis, but my knees never hurt me because I do appropriate exercises and my knees don't hurt. So this knee pain, the specific meniscus tear pain, is new, is different, and needs to be addressed so that I can go back to my knees being arthritic but fine. I mean, in 15 years, might I need knee replacement? Sure. But that's not the issue right now. In my spine, I also have a lot of arthritis, including a pretty large degeneration in my right side of my cervical spine. And I'm hypermobile. This is not, the ideal combination, but I know how to work with my body and I know how to work with my clients who have bodies like mine. But there are certain things that I will never do, and I will never do them again. For example, I don't do full flexion rolling. I do not roll like a ball anymore. I do not open like rock anymore. I do not do seal. I do not do crab. I do not do tower, short spine, long spine. Why? Because every single time I do, within 6 hours, I am in severe neck pain and right arm pain. Now, you might say, but those are big parts of the Pilates canon. Yeah, that's nice. Not for me. I don't need to do those anymore. I did them for many years. It was great while I did them, not doing them again. Because of the lower back hypermobility, there are also, that also kind of takes me away from the things like rolling and the short spine and the tower and all of that. My bone density is perfectly fine. I, in fact, can do all of that loaded flexion. But if I want to avoid neck surgery for a few more years, which is something I would like to avoid, I can exercise in a way that strengthens everything and that keeps me relatively pain free. And that means I'm doing a little more extension work. That means I'm doing a little more hyperextension work. That means that I'm not doing a lot of rounding work with my upper back, specifically tail led, legs overhead, compressed rounding. And no, I don't take the weight all the way up into my neck. It doesn't matter. Okay, it's positional. Right now, I can't be on my knees because that hurts. But let me tell you something. I find something to do for my body that is helpful every single damn day. And I work around the areas that are painful and sore. And I am proud of myself for the work that I do. And this is how you have to look at your clients. Whatever they have going on in their bodies, be proud of the fact that they showed up for your class. Be proud of the fact that they are moving. Offer a variety of ways for them to move so that anybody who's having an issue somewhere doesn't have to feel like they're embarrassed and singled out for what they have happening in their body. Don't just correct your clients when they're doing something wrong, but applaud your clients when they're doing something right. Okay? And finally, know that there's a whole spectrum of Pilates. Like, I may not be doing the rollover and rolling like a ball and a lot of things that some people find to be really basic and simple in Pilates. But let me tell you something. I can still knock out a star. I can still knock out snake and twist on the reformer. I can still knock out the Russian splits. I can still work in a way that is advanced and even super advanced. Yet there are beginning exercises that I don't do because of different issues that I have with my body. So also realize that this beginning, intermediate, advanced situation is not always true. Most clients are going to have some things that they're very advanced in and some things that they're not so advanced in. And it's helpful to have them do some of that harder advanced work in a way that is healthy and good for them, to push them, as well as having them do some of the easier work that might seem more appropriate to their level. If you have any questions on this, as always, reach out to me. You can email me, Lynda@lyndalippin.com. You can DM me on all the forms of social media. You can go into Facebook and join the free Pilates Teacher Mastermind group and ask me questions in there. If you are interested in doing any continuing education with me, I have seriously a load of pre-recorded workshops and material available in my Pilates Teacher Mastermind VIP program that is literally $47 a month. Okay, $47 a month. You have access to me. You have access to all the online workshops, all of the materials, and a private group that is actually not on Facebook. All of the links for all of these things will be in the show notes. And as always, if you love this podcast, would you please go to Spotify, to Apple Podcasts, to Podchaser, and leave a rating and a written review. I really appreciate that. And it really helps the podcast and it helps other people find the podcast. So, as always, thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for listening to the Pilates Goddess podcast. Music brought to you by Nerd Salad. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, especially if you liked it. And please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks.